This is a Dynamite Network podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a Rotten Tomatoes approved show that reviews superhero films and series through the lens of the DC and Marvel fandoms. I'm Joseph.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And in this episode, we are going to review the latest Marvel Studios release, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Right off the bat, I'm not looking forward to reviewing this. Like, it was a good movie, but I had some issues for sure.
But you are super, super harsh when it comes to Marvel films. Because of all the backstory you have from the comics, I feel like I don't give a shit. I just, want to see if it's a good movie or not. But you compare it to everything, and it's like almost impossible for the movies to be as good as the comics.
Well, I do feel like people who are fans of the comic, especially some of the characters in the movie, will like the film less than your typical general audience member. I think actually the general audience will really like Spider-Man Brand New Day.
I didn't really have that problem. That said, I am totally willing to shit all over this film.
Why? You don't get to. Only I get to.
Now I'm sorry, is this a two-person podcast? Or is this a one-person podcast? I'm just kidding. I actually liked the movie for the most part. And I think it would be really weird if you gave it a rotten score.
Well, let's find out if I do or not when we get into the review. Before that, we have a quick message from our AI co-host, AJ9K, so listen up.
Why, hello there. Be sure to tune into the other shows in the Dynamite Podcast Network, including the Console Combat Podcast, where hosts John and Dean simulate battles between popular video game characters. Over on the Max Destruction Podcast, hosts Scotty and Gilly pit your favourite action heroes from film and television against each other. And on the Senjo World Podcast, host Zachary Hepburn speculates on fights between fan-favourite anime and manga characters. Visit dynamicpodcasts.com or click the link in our show notes to listen to all the shows in the Dynamite Podcast Network. Pip pip cheerio.
Thanks, AJ9K. In our last episode, we did a review of Spider-Man Noir, during which we discussed a lot of the characters in that show that appeared in the comic books, then asked you guys who you thought would make a good matchup for some of those characters.
As always, our best response came from Devin Davis on Discord, who suggested the matchup of Midnighter from The Authority versus Spider-Noir. Just a quick recap, Spider-Man Noir was raised during the Great Depression by his Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and he became a crime fighter after a mystical spider bite granted him all the powers of Spider-Man, including strength, agility, wall crawling. He has black organic webbing, spider sense, advanced healing, and also immunity to pain, which is kind of unique for that character. He also carries firearms and wears his Uncle Ben's World War I airman uniform, providing him light body armor.
Such a cool character. Like, one of the coolest versions of Spider-Man, hands down.
For sure, yeah.
Also cool is Midnighter, who is also a stealthy, I don't know if you could classify him as noir, but you definitely could. He's the Batman of the Wildstorm universe, essentially. He was bioengineered for a secret Stormwatch Black Ops team, but went rogue with the hero Apollo before joining the Authority. He's a brutal vigilante and has enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, durability, rapid healing, and a combat computer implant that predicts how to counter and win any fight.
We input their stats into our Monte Carlo simulator, ran 1,000 matches, and have a winner for you. AJ9K, the results, please.
Here you are, sir.
The winner of the matchup between Midnighter and Spider-Man Noir is Midnighter.
How? Really?
He won 559 of the 1,000 simulated matches, or 55.9%, compared to Spider-Man Noir, who won 44.1%. And really, they were tit for tat, except in the skill of fighting. Midnighter dominated Spider-Man Noir in that category.
Yeah, I was going to say, but Spider-Man Noir is so much stronger.
I mean, barely. For what Spider-Man Noir makes up for in strength, he loses in intellect.
But Spider-Man Noir is so smart.
I'm sorry, does he have a computer for a brain?
No.
Okay.
Whatever, just more overpowered DC bullshit once again. Moving on.
I have to say, this has become my favorite segment of our new format. It kind of makes me miss the days when we used to speculate on the matches.
Well, I gotta say, I hate this segment of the new format, and I also hate you. Moving on.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and give a quick breakdown of the comic book histories of the characters that appear in Spider-Man Brand New Day in a segment called Who's Who. Of course, appearing in Spider-Man Brand New Day is Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker, who is the orphaned son of CIA agents. He was raised by his Aunt May and Uncle Ben in Queens, New York. At age 15, he was bitten by a radioactive spider, which granted him incredible abilities. Initially using his powers for profit, Peter allowed a thief to escape, only to learn that the same man later killed his Uncle Ben. The tragedy taught him that with great power comes great responsibility, leading him to become Spider-Man. As Spider-Man, Peter balanced heroism with personal hardship, at one point creating and drinking an experimental serum to remove his powers permanently. This caused him to mutate into a 6-armed man-spider, but he was eventually cured by his occasional foe, the lizard. Peter married Mary Jane Watson, though they endured financial strain, the stillbirth of their daughter May, and repeated threats caused by his superhero life. They later sacrificed their marriage to Mephisto to restore Peter's secret identity to the world and save Aunt May, though Peter and Mary Jane eventually found their way back to each other. Spider-Man possesses superhuman strength, speed, agility, reflexes, and durability. He can cling to walls, he can sense approaching danger through his spider sense, and he uses his self-designed web shooters to swing, restrain enemies, and fire varied web projectiles. Occasionally in the comics, he has also had organic web shooters. Also in the movie is the Punisher. Frank Castle was the son of Sicilian immigrants, also from Queens. After leaving seminary because he could not forgive evil, he joined the Marines, trained in reconnaissance, sniper operations, airborne tactics, and underwater demolition, and served multiple tours in Vietnam. When Frank returned home, his wife Maria and their children were murdered in Central Park after witnessing a mob execution. With police corruption preventing justice, Frank became the Punisher and began a one-man war on organized crime. After finally dying after many decades, he was revived into the body of his younger self and continued his campaign. The Punisher has no superhuman powers, but he's highly trained in hand-to-hand combat, knife fighting, firearms, explosives, military intelligence, recon, infiltration, assassination, extraction, camouflage, stealth, and field medicine. He's an expert marksman with handguns, rifles, automatic weapons, shotguns, bows, and throwing knives, relying on strategy, preparation, and his extensive arsenal. Also in Spider-Man Brand New Day is the Hulk. Bruce Banner, a brilliant nuclear physicist traumatized by an abusive childhood, was overseeing the test of his gamma bomb creation when a teenager wandered onto the blast site. Bruce pushed the kid to safety but absorbed the gamma radiation of the explosion that transformed him into the Hulk. Hunted by Army General Thunderbolt Ross, Bruce spent years seeking a cure, while the Hulk became both a feared menace and a reluctant hero, later helping found the Avengers. The Hulk possesses potentially limitless strength, durability, stamina, and healing, all of which increase with his anger. His base strength exceeds 100 tons of lifting strength, and at extreme levels he can even cause earthquakes and emit powerful gamma energy. He can run at tremendous speed, leap hundreds of miles in a single bound, create shockwaves with thunderclaps. His skin resists nearly all conventional weapons, and his regenerative abilities let him recover from otherwise fatal injuries. Also in Spider-Man Brand New Day, briefly, unfortunately, was the Scorpion. Mac Gargan was a morally flexible private investigator hired by J. Jonah Jameson, the editor of the Daily Bugle, to uncover Peter Parker's connection to Spider-Man. When Mac Gargan failed, Jameson paid Dr. Farley Stillwell to fuse his DNA with that of a scorpion, one of the spider's natural predators. The experiment granted Gargan superhuman abilities but destabilized his mind, turning him into the violent Scorpion. Blaming Jameson for his transformation, Gargan became obsessed with killing him and repeatedly battled Spider-Man. He later bonded with the Venom symbiote, served on Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers as their version of Spider-Man, and eventually returned to the Scorpion identity. Scorpion can lift roughly 20 tons, run about 50 miles per hour, cling to walls, and withstand small arms fire. His 10-foot cybernetic tail can strike at 100 miles per hour, lift heavy objects, launch them through the air, inject poison, and sometimes fire laser blasts or corrosive acid. There's another big character that appears in Spider-Man Brand New Day who has a vast comic book backstory, but we're not going to get into that because that would be a spoiler, and this is a non-spoiler review.
Is Metzger the head of damage control from the comics?
Metzger was an anti-mutant activist within the comic books. He had no association with damage control, but his backstory wasn't very big. He was largely confined to an X-Men story arc called Children of the Atom, which is fantastic, and I highly suggest everyone read it. But no, he's an anti-mutant figurehead that was turned into the head of damage control in this movie.
Interesting.
I don't know what that could possibly mean. But let's move on to our main event now, where we review the latest Marvel Studios film to hit theaters, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Alright, Spider-Man Brand New Day was directed by Destin Daniel Cretton and stars Tom Holland, Zendaya, Sadie Sink, Jon Bernthal, Mark Ruffalo, and Tramell Tillman. It's the fourth film in the MCU Spider-Man film series and the first without director Jon Watts, who directed the Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home trilogy, all of which were great Spider-Man films in my opinion, with standout villains and great character growth for Peter Parker across all three. Brand New Day picks up where No Way Home ended, with Peter's identity forgotten by everyone he once knew. In the film, he copes with the isolation and the loss of his sense of self by diving into the role of Spider-Man. As he struggles to let go of his former relationships and investigates the threat of this new telepathic villain, his stress triggers the further mutation of his powers. Along the way, he crosses paths with the Punisher, Black Widow, and the Hulk. It's a solid premise, really, this film. So solid that, based on the marketing, I was pretty much convinced that this movie had the potential to be the greatest Spider-Man film of all time. It certainly looked that way, right?
Oh, cinematography-wise, I would say it's definitely the best-looking Spider-Man film of all time.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the best things to like about Spider-Man Brand New Day is the feel of the film. The director, Destin Daniel Cretton, he takes the franchise in a visually distinct and tonally mature direction that makes, I think, the Spider-Man Home trilogy look like Saturday morning cartoons comparatively. The grounded cinematography, the melancholic atmosphere, the musical score. Michael Giacchino came back to score this one with a synth / ambient electronica vibe. It was so fucking good. Everything feels fresh, and that's probably one of the better things that I can say about the film. There were some camera shots here that had me holding my breath as he was swinging. For as much as the Amazing Spider-Man franchise tried to capture that first-person feel of swinging through New York City skyscrapers, it didn't get it right. This movie did, which is why I would recommend seeing it in theaters if you're going to go see it.
I liked the Amazing Spider-Man swinging sequences. That said, this is better. And it kind of made me wish I would have seen it in 3D, even though I hate 3D.
That would have been cool. Another great thing to like about Brand New Day was the performances. Tom Holland has never been better in his performance as Peter Parker, and he's always been great. He was a believable high school sophomore. He's a believable young savant living in Brooklyn. The emotional core of the film regarding his grief over losing everyone he loved. It's heart-wrenching. You feel it, and it's mature, and it even goes places you wouldn't necessarily expect. I think that is the best part of the film, is its mature heart.
Oh, absolutely. I cared way more about Peter's relationship with MJ in this film than I did about the central villain conflict.
Oh, for sure. His emotional story arc is really the only arc in the movie that feels satisfying, I would say. Everything else from the mutation angle to the main story involving the mysterious villain, that all ranges from half-baked to full-on infuriating. My overall disappointment in the film may be controversial, especially as I said before with fans who aren't familiar with the comic books. And I want to give a quick disclaimer, I'm going to be speaking around the villain aspect of the film because the villain is a spoiler. So just bear with me.
Yeah, when you said at the top of the episode that you weren't looking forward to doing this review, I totally understand. I don't understand why Marvel needs to have these massive spoilers, because it doesn't need to be. They could have revealed the spoiler in the marketing, and I would have been even maybe more excited to see the film.
I agree. I will say that the spoiler regarding the villain involves a well-known character from the comic books that they straight up character assassinate. The villain is depicted as basically psychopathic, doing some cruel and even genuinely demented ass shit when they have never been that extreme in the comic books outside of some external influence. The personality of the villain was wrong. The backstory was wrong. The power level at this stage was wrong. Even their actions based on their motivations were wrong. It was all so wrong that Marvel seemed to be in competition for how wrong can we get this particular character. There's no reason why they should have been the main antagonist in a Spider-Man film, if only for Marvel to seemingly be trying to drum up excitement for future projects. Which is totally unnecessary because the excitement already exists, and the villain is outside the scope of what a street-level Spidey movie should have been.
Spider-Man has the second best rogues gallery in all of comics.
Exactly.
What the hell?
They cameoed so many different Spider-Man villains in this movie. just in a montage. Like, a lot of them could have been the main villain of this movie, including the Scorpion, who barely had any screen time. Instead, we got whatever the fuck this was.
You know, I had a coworker who knew that I saw the movie, and he asked me, "Oh, is like Tombstone really cool in the movie?" And I was like, "He is in it for literally 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Scorpion is in it for like maybe 3 minutes."
It's a shame what they did with the main villain arc in the story, especially considering that their conflict with Spidey could have been resolved with a single sentence. You know, it's like Batman vs. Superman all over again. Like, none of these people know how to communicate with each other. I'm not happy with Marvel's choices. This film has a villain problem. It makes me wonder what the fuck has been happening behind the scenes with Marvel brass. Even like DC Studios, like, they've all been making some really dumb fucking decisions as of late. And I would say that the villain problem with this movie is right up there with Iron Man 3's choice to make the Mandarin Trevor Slattery. But, you know, at least they were able to eventually salvage that mistake. Hopefully, this characterization of the villain doesn't take 10 years to fix. I don't think it will. They'll find some path of redemption. Maybe it'll just always be awkward from here on out. Anyway, back to what I did like. I liked the characters, minus the villain. I liked Spider-Man in the movie. As I mentioned, Tom Holland is superb. In the film, he goes full in on a Spider-Man persona, somewhat abandoning Peter Parker due to his decision to protect the ones he loves. It's a reluctant choice because he misses his friends and MJ, and his arc follows him as he chooses whether to stick with that choice and do this all in isolation, or if he can balance being both Peter Parker and Spider-Man, the latter persona becoming a metaphor really for the changes you experience as a young adult out on your own. There was also a message in here about how being different can feel lonely, but that people who do love you do it not because you're different, and that you shouldn't feel lonely. That message actually kind of put a nice little bow on all of the themes within the film by the end of the movie, which somewhat salvaged the issues with the film, but only minorly so.
How did you feel about the Spider-Man costume in this film? Because I actually think it's the best one ever.
I really liked it a lot. It felt much more practical and down to earth than his Stark tech suits, you know, which he's always had while in the MCU. I don't know if it was better than the Amazing Spider-Man 2 costume, but it was like right up there.
It was
right up there.
The one thing this had going over the Amazing Spider-Man 2 costume was the goggles, because they found a way to maintain like his expression with them, and I thought that was cool.
For sure. That was part of his Stark Tech costume, because prior to that he was using like actual goggles, but they're not outside the scope of what he could invent himself. Everything else on his suit didn't seem quite as high tech. Like, it was a nanotech suit, like it was in No Way Home.
Right, yeah.
Which is nice. It would have been cool to see him with 6 arms, though.
Dude, is that a spoiler? Because I want to talk about that.
Probably. I think it is a spoiler, so I would say tread carefully.
So in the marketing, what got me most excited to see this film was the Man-Spider storyline, because it's something that we've never seen on screen before. It's a storyline that they've never explored. I thought they were going to take it to its full extent. They didn't. And maybe they will in future films. I hope they do, because I would love to see that. But it was one of the things that really disappointed me about this film.
What did you think of the Punisher in this movie, especially coming off the back of the One Last Kill special presentation we got a few months ago?
Well, it made me miss that version of Frank. This felt like a very toned down version because of that. I kind of wish that there was more distance between those two projects.
Yeah, tonally, they were very different. I wouldn't say that John Bernthal felt out of character in this movie. It was just the circumstances, I think, kind of lent more toward him being comedic relief, which I thought he actually did pretty well. I thought it was pretty interesting how they used the character in this movie. And I think he's still capable of going back to that darker tone in his own projects. But it's nice to see how he can be adapted to play with the larger MCU here. What did you think of the Hulk?
Hulk is cool. Really like the Hulk. I'm glad they found a way to bring Savage Hulk back, which is not a spoiler because that was kind of alluded to in the marketing. And it's my favorite version of the Hulk.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was really clever how they figured out how to bring him back too.
I kind of wish he was the quote unquote final battle.
Yeah, that would have been cool. That would have been cool. What did you think of Black Widow?
I'm tired of her, honestly. Yelena Belova, that was a dumb scene.
The inclusion did feel somewhat gratuitous. I think she was only included to kind of give an update on the status of the new Avengers and Peter's relationship with them. What did you think of MJ?
I've never really cared for MJ in the past. Like, I never really saw Michelle, Zendaya's character, as the de facto MJ. And I've always kind of been waiting for the real MJ to make an appearance. That said, I think she was the best part of this movie. Like, I think she made this movie. For the first time, I really liked the MJ character.
Yeah.
And I thought Zendaya gave a fantastic performance.
Oh, she's phenomenal. I read an article regarding the film's production that after she and Tom read the script, she took it to her own writers to do a quote unquote Zendaya pass to kind of add more weight to her character. And I think it was totally worth it. I think it was totally evident in the fact that her and Peter's arc in the film were the best part about the movie.
There's a specific scene that like really broke my heart. And it was so unbelievably evil on behalf of the main villain, who shall remain nameless, that I found it really hard to like that character after that scene because it was brutal.
Absolutely.
But no, I definitely want more MJ, more Ned in the next film, because for the first time, I feel like they are truly a part of this version of Spider-Man's world and not just like superfluous side characters to move past. Like, as much as I would love to see Spider-Man interact with other romantic characters like Black Cat or something like that, I'm really interested to see what they do with the character of MJ and Peter going forward.
Yeah, despite my minor disappointment in the film overall, I am interested in seeing where the franchise goes from here still. The movie's going to make a ton of money. It's already broken a few records, so I'm confident that we'll get a continuation on this story.
Hey, Supergirl broke some records too.
Yeah, bad records.
Hey, records are records.
Overall, my thought on the movie is that despite its mature heart and distinctive direction, Spider-Man Brand New Day squanders its potential in service of misguided franchise building. I am rating it 3.5 stars out of 5, still giving it a fresh rating though on Rotten Tomatoes.
Which feels harsh until you think about the movie's villain problem.
For sure.
We've said on this podcast, I think a number of times, that superhero films live and die by their conflict, and in a way, therefore, they live and die based on their villain. When your villain doesn't work, the movie doesn't work, and the best superhero movies have the best villains and villain motivations.
I actually think Brand New Day has a lot of similar issues to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, with like a villain problem despite having a strong emotional heart. But I can't bring myself to rate Brand New Day as low as 3 stars, because for as flawed as Brand New Day is, it has a whole lot more going for it, and it certainly doesn't have the cheese factor that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 had.
Joseph, are there any spoilers you can reveal, even out of context ones?
Sure, yeah. In Spider-Man Brand New Day, you can hear Black Widow talk about potatoes.
Which was weird.
In Spider-Man Brand New Day, you can see Punisher cry.
Hey, fuck you, I'm not crying.
And in Spider-Man Brand New Day, you can see Spider-Man shoot sticky white stuff on his lady companion.
But that's every Spider-Man movie, I feel like.
And I think that's going to be a spoiler for all of these Spider-Man projects. Again, these films are pure pornography. That does it for our review. AJ9K, help close us out.
Thanks for listening to Dynamic Duel. Visit the show's website at dynamicduel.com and follow us on Instagram at Dynamic Duel Podcast. Don't forget to listen to the other shows in the Dynamite Podcast Network, including Max Destruction, Senjo World, and Console Combat.
Hey, Jonathan, what are you looking forward to? What was the big news from DC Studios coming out of Comic-Con this year?
So no real news as to the future projects of DC Studios. I think that's kind of being held up by the potential acquisition by Paramount, which has been delayed until next year. It was supposed to happen by September of this year, but it got pushed back. So all we really got were trailers for Lanterns and Clayface, but both of those were really good. Like, I had lost faith in Lanterns, but the introduction of Manhunters and the fact that it looks like, to me at least, that they're merging the robot Manhunters with the Martian Manhunters is an interesting angle, for sure.
Yeah, we got to see Sinestro. The Lanterns Season 1 review is actually going to be our next episode, which is going to come out at the end of September. I'm looking forward to Ghost Rider, which was announced at this year's Comic-Con, starring Ryan Gosling. That's fucking huge. That's awesome.
That's a Marvel fan's dream. Holy cow, how long have you guys wanted that?
Forever. We also got new casting for the new Black Panther. David Johnson is going to be the new T'Challa.
And that's going to be great.
That's going to be so fucking good. We also got casting for Emma Frost with Samara Weaving. That is perfect casting. I couldn't tell you better casting than that. That's an absolute dream. So there's a lot to look forward to with Marvel, at least. I'm excited.
I just said that the Clayface and Lanterns trailers were awesome. Yeah, I have stuff to look forward to as well.
Not as cool, but okay.
Says you.
That does it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
I want you to admit that DC is better.
No.
Well, I'll pop it away then.
True believers?
I'm sick of all these non-spoiler reviews, so I'm just going to say it. The villain is Paste Pot Pete. You're welcome.